Never stop dreaming, the old king had said. Follow the omens. It was the language of enthusiasm, of things accomplished with love and purpose, and as part of a search for something believed in and desired. People need not fear the unknown if they are capable of achieving what they need and want. Welcome, extraordinaries, to another episode of the High Performance Consciousness Podcast. My name is Matthew Paddy, and again, I will be your host for today's episode. Quite an interesting one, and one with a new spin of excitement, and I'll share it with you in just a moment. So what I read at the beginning of this episode was from The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. An incredible book if you haven't read it. And if you have already read it, then maybe listening to this now is the time for you to pick it up and reread it, re-immerse yourself in the beautiful metaphysical journey of this story. So everything is about signs and omens as depicted and illustrated and expressed and shared in The Alchemist. And I preface it this way because of the new episode or new theme for the episodes that I'll be running moving forward, called Ask Matthew, which, funny enough, came about by observing signs and omens. So only this morning, prior to recording this podcast, did I ask, bring in some new information that can help to increase and upgrade, re-excite this podcast and go deeper. So I open it to the field, open it to the universe. And within an hour, I opened my email address. And what should I find but an email with the very sign or the very answer to that which I was seeking. So after completing my morning ritual and immersing myself in some new reading, I decided to open my inbox, and the first email I discovered was the clue and the answer. And so I'm going to read the email to you and explore the first set of answers for Ask Matthew. And I want to thank Omar for initiating this, for him being the sign that I asked for. And in doing so, me potentially being the sign that he was asking for. Magic in the moment. So here we go. So this is the email from Omar. And I hope I've pronounced your name correctly. Omar. Let me read it verbatim. Dear Matthew, my name is Omar. I am 24 years old and live in Israel. First, I would like to say that I appreciate and enjoy a lot of your podcasts on Spotify. Thank you, Omar. Really good to receive that feedback. Secondly, I would like to share with you that I experience a very special period now. Finally, I've been disengaged from the army, and I guess you may know that in Israel, we are all required to serve in the army. And for the first time in my life, I'm out of frames, or out of his comfort zone, or out of the box, so to speak. Navigating alone and experiencing real freedom and infinite variety of will and spirit. Love that. I find myself struggling at imagining and dreaming how I want my future to look. Sounds familiar to any of you? In your podcast, you talk a lot about the importance of dreaming, imagining, setting goals, and living and acting now, like you are already the person who possessed or possesses your future or your desired future based on quantum physics. That makes sense to me. But my question is, what if I don't know what my future is? What if I don't know what I want for my future? Who are the people that I want to be surrounded by? What type of relationship is right for me? What's the most important thing in life, and in which sequence should I pursue it? Money, spirit, relationship, university, travel, etc. Those big questions are a mystery for me, and it feels like the destination is covered, maybe meaning the destination is occluded or hidden from him, like driving through a fog on an unpaved road, he says. I'm kind of a person that is having difficult. He goes on to say that he's having doubt and feels that he's unable to drill down on everything, and it feels difficult for him to make decisions, especially the heavy ones. So he says, I thought to share with you my feelings, and I would love your advice, how to better manage and drill down on my depth and to look at my doubt, how to manifest and use the quantum principles, not only in implementation of my objectives, but rather how to find them, the inner and the true will of the soul. Wow, Omer, this is an amazing, amazing email, and I am super grateful to you for sharing it with me and taking the step to reaching out, not through me necessarily, but really to the universe and asking the bigger questions. Because these are questions that we have all asked of ourselves many, many times over, whether it's been at a conscious level or at an unconscious level, whether it's been a conversation that has left our lips and been audibly heard by the ears of others or ourselves, or whether it's an internal dialogue and an inner conversation that is rinsed and repeated over and over, hoping, praying potentially that the answers will come and the clarity will come. Well, I have good news for you, Omer. You, my man, have kicked off Ask Matthew episode. You have dropped your pebble into the pond and now make possible for this episode. So congratulations. There's your sign, the first of many to come. However, in answering some of your questions, let me first start in prefacing that by being in the army, being in a relationship, being in a full-time job over a couple of decades, being in a family environment, whatever it may be, when we have experienced a long-term or had long-term experiences in one environment, we tend to accommodate to that environment. And as I've said in previous episodes, our environment, we become the product of our environments. So let's say around the army. So obviously there's discipline and there's focus and there's physical effort and attention and there's obedience and loyalty and courage and all these sorts of things. So when you are inside an environment, that environment has a frequency, and that frequency operated by rules is what sets the tone, what creates the state of being for individuals or beings that live or operate within that environment. So essentially you can walk in and out of each room, with each room being a different environment, and you'll become the product of that room, as I've said in other episodes. So let's relate it not necessarily to the army, but to anyone out there that has experienced or has lived in a long-term environment, has operated in an environment for a long period of time, whether it's 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, whatever it may be. You have become the product of that environment. And that's without judgment. That is purely observation. And quite often, when we leave that environment, whether it's through the breakdown of a relationship or moving on from a job or being made redundant or exiting the army because you've served your time, whatever it may be, the questions come up thick and fast because they have always existed within us. They are not new questions. However, they were pushed down into the recesses of our being because we were operating within the environment and the laws within that environment. So it's very, very natural to first and foremost have these questions come to the surface and to feel slightly lost, maybe a little bit in doubt, maybe a little bit in fear or overwhelm as to what you should do next. And I hear this a lot when people go through big changes, big life changes, big business changes. And the invariable fact is that you will always land on your feet. You will always find the answers you seek as long as you keep seeking. Seeking without attachment, seeking with curiosity, seeking for the art or for the pure joy of seeking. And so in answering your question, and there's a lot of questions in here, but really to reduce it down is, how do I know what I want for my future? What do I want my future to look like when my past was already decided for me? And now it's undecided because now it's left to me, because I am now my new environment. I've been set free or released or resolved from a previous environment. So the biggest question here is to explore. And the answer around exploring is not judging yourself and not judging your decisions. So anytime that I've gone through big life changes, and I've been through many big life changes, I've sat with it. I've sat with the feelings of not knowing. I've sat with the feelings of potentially knowing. I've sat with the excited or inspirational ideas, and I've watched for signs. Now, signs are all about perspective. So let's say that you're focusing on the worry or the fear or the contraction or the anxiety or the disappointment, or maybe there's anger or sadness around a big life change. And so what you will see through the eyes of your perception is potentially a distorted sense of the omen. So you may see omens that are calling you forward, and yet you're afraid to embrace them. You may end up having information passed back to you because of that does not feel in alignment with what you want, because of how you're vibrating right now, your level of consciousness. If you feel contracted and fearful and overwhelmed. So the key point here is to step back from the self, step back from the I in the identity, and the identity that was and the identity that is becoming. And stepping back from the I, the identity, and observe what is coming into your field. And so you may notice that numbers start to appear. You may notice that there are certain topics of conversation that you overhear or that you start to become engaged in. Maybe there's something on a video or a movie or in a book, and you'll start to observe that there are little strings that are starting to form before you. These are all subtle signs, subtle omens. Not necessarily saying that this is what you must do or this is going to be your future. Essentially, new information is coming into our field every second, every single moment we are receiving new information. However, because of such a reduced ability, or an ability to see such a reduced amount of the light spectrum as a human being, we often overlook lots of the information that is around us and within us at any given moment. So understand, number one is to step back from the I in the identity that wants to judge, that wants to say, do I feel safe? Do I feel secure? Is this right or is this wrong? Does this remind me of the past? Is this something that I can lean into and feel comfortable and certain about my future? The whole plan here is about curiosity. Being curious enough not only to observe new signs, but to lean in to new information. And so whether it's books, conversations, whether it's maybe a movie or something on YouTube, maybe there's some social groups, whether it's on social media or in your local area, look for those signs and start to string together some new information, new pearls, as it were. Because the future often does not look clear when we have invested so much of our energy, our thought, our heart, and our energetic self into an old environment for so long. So the future can look uncertain because now we are free to explore. We are free to be curious. We are free from the previous laws that governed and operated the previous environment. We are now free to explore and question our beliefs. We're now free to explore and question our reality. What is it that we want? Who are we? Who am I really? What really lights me up? That's one of the most critical questions that I ask anyone who is having trouble getting clear on their future. What lights you up? What turns you on? What activates your switch? What compels you to lean in and want to know more? And so the first thing, Omer, I would say to you is to write down all the things that you are interested in, all the subjects that you're interested in. Obviously, quantum physics, maybe neuroscience, consciousness, spirituality. Maybe it's about travel. Maybe it's about healing. Maybe it's about cooking or gardening. Maybe it's about conversations around language. There are so many things that we have access to that we deprive nourishment towards or nourishment of because we fear that it's not going to lead us to a fulfilling quest or on a quest towards fulfillment. So what I would do is just write down everything that you're interested in and spending 3 minutes, investing 3 minutes in that process, everything that you're interested in. And then on the other side of the page, so that's on one side, on the other side, write out all the things that you've learnt, the skills, the expertise, the knowledge, the wisdom that you've acquired. And so it could be in areas of filming, it could be areas of gardening, it could be areas of personal development, could be areas of motivation, could be areas on relationship building, whatever it may be. So write down all the areas that you have some level of skill and some level of expertise, knowledge, or wisdom in. You'll start to see that there is a sign and an obvious top 3 choices starting to fall out from your answers. You'll see that your interests have never left you. They've just been sitting patiently in hibernation for the right time to emerge so that you can lean into them and explore through curiosity what they feel like when engaged. Because that's the key, Omer. That in exploring what we want for our future, seldom do we take the leap in moving ahead in spite of not knowing what the outcome is going to be. Some may feel that it's too risky. It may feel a little bit contrite. It may even feel too overwhelming because we're going into the unknown. So the key here is to lean into what feels good, what you are interested in, what lights you up, because that activates the beacon inside of you, this honing beacon, that calls more of that to you. Because remember, thoughts are energetic. Feeling is magnetic. Thoughts share the electric vibration with the field. The magnetism of feeling draws it back to you multiplied. Okay? So lean in and experiment and use curiosity and feeling as your compass. If it doesn't feel good anymore, don't do it. If it feels good, even if it's just one conversation, be curious enough to invite new information or more information around that topic or around that theme. Even if it lasted a fraction of a moment as a thought, send it out as a curiosity, just as I did this morning before opening my inbox and seeing your email. Ask the field, because what exists in the field is your highest potential, and your highest potential always exists. It is fully formed, fully capable, fully functional, and fully resourced. It's always present. It's eternal. So our fullest potential, our highest potential exists simultaneously with us in the now. And if we can open our mind, open our eyes, most importantly, open our hearts through curiosity and observe and lean in when it feels good, lean in when we want to know more, lean in when there's just a spark that starts to set the kindle alight, and watch what occurs, because your future is formed in the now. Your future, from an analytical perspective, you want wholly and solely formed before you take the steps towards it. That's not the way that it works. And the encouragement and the enticement here is to operate now and to explore what your future and the entanglement of yourself in your future as your future self. That's the opportunity. So be curious and open yourself to the potential that exists through active imagination. And if you feel like you don't have an activated imagination, this is a surefire way to activate it. Because as you lean in, and you might do like a cooking class like I did last week. I was invited and I thought, why not? I haven't done cooking for ages. So I learned about Italian cooking and did an Italian cooking class and got to eat it. Really loved it. Now, what came from that was a great conversation around Italy. More conversations around Italy have happened in the last 7 days, including one this morning with the housekeeper talking about Italy and her love for travel. And she wants to leave the cleaning business and do something that really lights her up. It's the same thing. So there's the encouragement. There's the motivation. There's the intrigue. Everything forms around curiosity. And curiosity is expanded and magnetized when we align ourselves with positive feeling, meaning if it feels great, do more of it. If you didn't like the experience, you don't have to stay with it. If it entertained you for half the book and you don't feel like finishing it, don't worry about it. So the whole objective here is to not get caught up in the I of the identity, is to step back and to observe new information that is entering your field, new information that is bringing opportunities to you. And from that, you will feel and sense and be drawn magnetically to a series and a sequence of events that you could not have predicted on your own. I promise you that. So whether it's the money, the spirit, the relationships, the university, the travel, we want to try and stack things in the right order in order to predict a winning outcome. It doesn't work like that. It requires no less effort to achieve and fulfill what you want and what you desire by being in the now. So, the encouragement, trust yourself, lean into curiosity, step back and observe beyond the eye of the identity of the past, and explore possibilities, explore your interests, your passions, your purpose. Because all said and done, the money, the spirit, the relationship, the university, the travel, etc., may not happen in that order. That is a third dimensional thinking. It's a third dimensional concept that one thing needs to happen before the next thing. Everything that you think, act, and feel upon and within and towards is causative. That which returns is effective. So you are the cause. What returns to you are effects. And what you may find is that the relationship finds you at university while you are traveling, finding yourself, and money leans in based on your passion and based on the higher octave of frequency that you are emitting as your signature to the field, because you're living your life through curious eyes. I hope that makes sense. I hope that's helped you, Omer, and thank you so much for being this gift and this answer. And I hope it's helped you, others that are listening to this. So if you do have a question for me, then email me at support@matthewpaddy.com, support@matthewpaddy.com. Email me with your question. Give me some little bit of detail. And in the way that Omer's written it, perfect. We don't need to go into drama stories or all those sorts of things, but essentially, what do you want to know more about? Ask Matthew is the new segment, and I'll be answering your questions. So from me here to wherever you are in the world, dream a better dream. And remember, it's all you, baby. See you in the field.